As a matter of fact, I don't want to try to remove it from you. I want it to lay right there on your heart until God does the removing. You see, it's when God forgives. Pastor John can't forgive you. God needs to forgive you. Also, we see something else, that the people of God realize that transgression, when it is and when it is not removed. Only people of God know that. You know when there's something at the gate. I don't have to tell you. You don't have to tell me. I know when there's something on my heart when I talk to God about. When God is making me feel guilty, I ain't going to try to blame that on my wife. That's God making me feel guilty about me. See, this is a personal thing when God forgives me. Now, I'm going to share something with you. People of God who realize that transgression is not removed are, number one, not forgiven. When the people of God realize that God has not removed the transgression, number one, know that you are not forgiven. Number two, you are not happy. Number three, you are not living on the cutting edge of your Christian experience. That's how you know that you're not forgiven. You're not happy and you're not living on the cutting edge of Christianity. You're not excited about ministry. You're not excited about this church. You're not excited about the Bible. You're only excited about one person, you, me, myself, and I. Biblical Christianity is never concerned about me, myself, and I. Me, myself, and I needs to drop what, church? Dead. Good and dead. God can't use you because you ain't dead yet. And when you are too alive to yourself, you are not dead enough to God. So I say to those of you that are believers and you are not happy, drop dead and God will give you some life. Second of all, the result of the psalmist's conclusion rests on the evidence that sin's effects, when rightly dealt with, will become covered, are hidden from God. In other words, the psalmist is saying, God, if I deal with this, you're going to cover them. God, if I, come to this conclusion on your basis, then the happiness and the joy comes back. Sin is therefore not held against the account of the believer where biblical forgiveness has taken place. See, I have on number one, I said, please place on these lines what you hear God say. I don't want you to place what you think you hear me saying. That's been your problem. You've been putting down what you think you hear me saying. I'm not saying anything. God is saying, do you feel forgiven? No. Is there sin in your life? No. Has sin made you like this? Yes. Have you addressed it in the proper way? No. Well, why haven't you? I don't know. You're lying, right? Right. That's why you don't feel happiness. Right. Now, that's where you deal with it. And until you come to there, God's not going to forgive you. And you're going to be in a cesspool of ignorance for the rest of your spiritual development. One of the greatest doctrines of the Bible is that of the doctrine of the forgiveness of God to men. And I believe that when I read this psalm, I said, Lord, I need you to forgive me. Not for any one or two or three things that I've done. Lord, you need to forgive me for the things that I don't even know I'm going to do. If you don't have that approach to God, do you know how you're handling your Christian life? You're handling your Christian life like, I ain't going to sin whatever I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Do you? I don't know what I'm doing. I only know what I'm doing the moment before I do it. That's what inspiration of the Spirit is. Inspiration of the Spirit is not you having your life planned out. God has my life planned out. How about yours? I also see something in verses 1 and 2. The removal of sin in a person's life is nothing less than a gracious act of God. If sin is removed in your life, God has to remove it. You can't remove it. What you have to do is to admit that it's there. If you're going to be a healthy believer, admit that there is something there. If you never admit that there is something there, he is going to grieve you. And trust me, my friend, you are going to do everything humanly you can to deny that God is working. And then you might even try to blame someone else working, and someone else don't even know that you exist. There are two special kinds of sin that are inevitable in the text. And I see it right here in these verses. And it's called iniquity and deceit. So let's deal with these two kinds of particular sins that the psalmist in his penitential psalm is dealing with. The first one is iniquity. This is a term for sin emphasizing, listen, listen, listen. I know you're ready to write, but you're not ready to listen. Iniquity emphasizes deviation from a correct course. Iniquity is when you deviate from a course that has been set in front of you. It also refers to injustice and failure to fulfill the standard of righteousness by a lack of integrity. That is what iniquity is. And the psalmist is saying, Lord, I feel broken off from you because I have committed iniquity. I'll redo it again for you that write slow. It is a term of sin emphasizing deviation from the correct course. What course were you on? Now what course are you on? What course were you pursuing? Now what are you pursuing? Unless any one of you think that I put sermons together at midnight, I do not. This sermon was packed and ready Tuesday because I listen to God and I know what he wants me to preach to the body that I'm shepherding. I don't do that. Heathens do that. That would be iniquity, straying off the course. Sunday night, I'm on my face before God saying, speak to me, because you've got to tell me what they don't think I know about them yet, because I am the shepherd here. I will re-say it, and I want you to place this wherever it belongs, because I am not concerned. Deviation from a correct course. It refers to injustice, failure to fulfill the standard of righteousness, or a lack of integrity in your lives. When that happens, my friends, you are totally out of whack, and God needs to forgive you, because there's absolutely nothing else that any other human being can do for you. Now let's deal with this second term. It's called deceit. Deceit. In any way or form or fashion of misleading in terms of God's agenda or program. In other words, deceit is when you mislead. When God's agenda is one way and you're saying it's not that way. These kinds of actions deny God's plans, which also holds the idea of slander and treachery. This is what David was accused of. And my friends, I'm preaching to you from this penitential psalm because we will do that. The devil will come in and have you become a slanderer and a treacherous person at the drop of a hat if you aren't prayed up. Let's move on down to the second point. The condition of the man or woman who refuses to receive biblical forgiveness. Oh, and I have right here, again, please put on the lines what you hear God saying, not what you think he's saying. Because, see, you can think you heard me say something. Matter of fact, you listen to the discourses tonight. I went back 4 or 5 years in some sermons that I preach. And there will be some statements that I'm making on the radio that I preached years ago. And I'm going to tell those folk, call me and tell me what I just said. And when them folk call me and tell me what they think I said, I didn't say that. Then I'm going to tell the guy, replay that statement again. What did I just say? It is my belief that the church has been so taught and so given so much information that you haven't been the need to listen to God yet. You are listening to your own mind, and your mind has been depraved. And that is a tool that the enemy will bring in on you. The enemy does not want you to listen to me. The enemy does not want you to listen to a man like me. The enemy wants you to listen to a man that's going to make you feel good. The enemy is set out to destroy me and to destroy men like me. And I'm praying every minute of my life that God gives me more strength to get more like this. Now you think the enemy is mad? Hell, he's pissed off at me. Oh yes, I'll use those terms because I'm involved in a war to the death against the enemy. Now I don't know what you think your Christianity is based on. Your Christianity is not based on a feel-good Charlie time. Your Christianity is based on war. I've declared war on the devil, and I'm going to attack him to his face. Any of you that want to play the backward skip, go ahead. I ain't got time for you. Verses 3 and 4. Look what the psalmist says. When I kept silent about my sin, my body wasted away through the groanings all day long. But day and night, your hand was heavy upon me. My vitality was drained away as with the fever heat of summer. In other words, the man is saying, man, God took all my strength because I'm playing him off. In other words, a striking evidence that the human, look at what this human is. God will not reason with man about his guilt the same way that we do. What we do is we try to reason with saints when they sin. God says, oh, no. I'm going to let you know that you sin because I'm going to do a process here. I'm going to drain everything from you. I'm going to make you weak and impotent before me. This is David. He says right here, we may or may not want to be able to admit the truth about ourselves, but some of us have felt like this, including myself from time to time. When I kept silent about my sin, in other words, I ain't addressing me. Let me use me. I'm the senior pastor. I'm the biggest shot in the room. So I'm not going to tell on me, Cliff. I am right because of my title and my position.